So thank you for joining the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority webinar on energy savings performance contracting and our technical assistance program. Next page. So just before we get started to talk about our technical assistance program, some of you may know us as the Water and Energy Office. We house our water and clean water, drinking water loan resolving fund, as well as some grant funds on our energy side, like the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant, grid resiliency programs, and our Georgia Energy Grant. Combining those two offices, our main goal overall is to improve Georgia's energy, land, and water resources. So these are just a few of the programs listed here throughout between the Water and Energy Office, but we do have a various amount of programs as well that you can look at on our website. Next. And just to get a little bit of history and back information on how Georgia holds the Energy Performance Contracting Program, also known as ESPC. So, a little bit over a decade ago, we were entitled with legislation to act on giving the opportunity to the MUS industry to take on 20-year cap debt, multi-year debt for guaranteed energy savings projects towards those looking at those ECMs and doing those upgrades on a larger scale. So that was housed in our department in 2011. And ever since then, we've been working on building up projects through our state agencies like our prisons, our school systems, and hospitals and municipalities as well. In our main role since then, we review and manage policies, just overall the GSPC program. We pre-qualify ESCOs, so we have an ESCO list where they have agreed to the state of Georgia program requirements. So we pre-qualify those on a rolling basis every 3 years. We help with GISFIC board coordination with that loan cap and multi-debt acquiring, as well as produce any guidance and resource documents. We have those on our website as well. Our RFP, our investment grade audits and things like that, templates on there for you guys to use. We also collect our measurement and verification from every project. So that is upholding that guaranteed energy savings promise from the ESCO. We'll get that information on a yearly basis and put that in our EPC or EPC tracker. And lastly, we also coordinate our executive director approval. So just to get the overall project approved and moving along, we will rope in our executive director, get him up to speed, and get that approval to sign over the project to the owner. So that's just a little bit of responsibilities in Georgia around EPC and kind of going into our main topic of the webinar here today. So I wanted to go ahead and pass it over to our team here at 2KB, George, who will be speaking about our EPC Technical Assistance Program that we are launching here next month. So thank you so much, George, for joining us as well. And we'll have a little bit of housekeeping on our next slide. I'd like to go over, if you want to go ahead and proceed. Yes. Oh, and also, yeah, just our goals and just a little housekeeping before I pass it over. This webinar is recorded, so it will be posted on our GEFA website as well. So please make sure we're muting our microphones and also keeping our cameras off. And if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. We'll post questions in our FAQ after this and as well post that on our website. So with further ado, I'll pass this on to 2KB and George Buchanan. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Miracle, and good afternoon, everyone. Just as Miracle mentioned, I'm George Buchanan, CEO and founder of 2KB Energy Services. We are the technical assistance support team for GEFA in this Energy Savings Performance Contract Technical Assistance Program, joined by Senior Program Manager for 2KB, Rich Carroll, who's with us as well. And just so you see on the slide here, I mean, the goal today, and many of you, of course, have some familiarity, but we'll talk a little bit about energy savings performance contracting and of course, GEFA's technical assistance program for public sector organizations, entities here in the state. Again, a little bit of overview on ESPC, what it is, why folks go through it, what you can expect if you enter into one of these programs. And then, of course, GEFA's technical assistance. Probably should have done sort of a glossary or abbreviation slide. So you'll hear things like ESPC, which is Energy Savings Performance Contracting. You'll hear EPC, or Energy Performance Contracting. GESPC, ESCO, ECM, FIM, all these sorts of things. We'll do our best to break those down as we go through the content here. Reiterate the housekeeping. As you have questions, please do use the Q&A function. We will try to get to as many of the questions as possible, realizing, of course, as Miracle mentioned, things that we don't get to, we'll certainly make sure the frequently asked questions, FAQ, is up to date. So with that, let's tear into it. Why energy savings performance contracting? So, I mean, some of the primary reasons you see here on the screen that folks consider energy savings performance contracting. Mostly we're talking about addressing facility and infrastructure issues. The data you see here on the screen, I mean, it's a 10-year-old study done by the team over at FacilitiesNet. It reports much of what we already know. Buildings are aging. Deferred maintenance costs have been a growing issue for many, many years. Some of the technological advances that are great for us, they benefit us in many ways. They also have the additional effect of hindering parts availability for legacy equipment, legacy systems. Another reason for energy savings performance contracting is scarcity of funds, right? You've got a wide ranging list of demands across a portfolio. There's only so many dollars to go around. We see inflationary pressures on goods and services. Tough decisions have to be made. We find ourselves managing pain versus maintaining a regular capital improvement cycle. Continuing this theme of resource scarcity, there are often goals for energy efficiency, water efficiency, operational cost reductions. Where there are not outright goals, I mean, everyone now recognizes that these cost centers, it's no longer a simple cost of doing business. Organization-wide, right? We all recognize that it's our responsibility to take steps, identify and take concrete steps to impact these cost centers. So primary motivations, again, you see here some, of course, different reasons that are not represented here that bring you here to this webinar. And again, we thank you all for being here. So as we've talked about the primary motivations, let's get into what ESPC, or Energy Savings Performance Contracting, is and how it can address some of these issues. So an energy savings performance contract at its core is a design, build, construction contract funded through operational savings, operational budgets, with a performance guarantee on the equipment and the systems installed. So your ESCO, or Energy Services Company, is going to partner with your organization for a long-term financing arrangement where they evaluate facilities, identify improvements, design and develop a project. And sometimes, more often than not, they are somewhat involved in helping arrange the project financing. And again, I mentioned the performance guarantee, right? There is a guarantee on the systems that are installed to ensure that the energy savings that are funding this project, funding the improvements, the energy savings are there and are realized by your team, by your agency. You see the steps here on the bottom of the slide here. You'll begin playing with some cool features here. You'll begin with planning and selection of your ESCO, or again, energy services company, the vendor, the single vendor that's going to oversee all of the subcontractors to develop and install the program. They're going to conduct an investment grade energy audit. That is evaluating all systems, all equipment, all operational cost centers to see what's possible and develop this program in concert with your team. They'll go through the implementation of those measures. This is, installing all of, and we'll talk about some of the types of measures that are installed under these programs in a bit, but they're all implemented in sort of a very large capital project, single phase. Think of, 5 to 7 years of what would be your normal capital improvement cycle being installed in one contract vehicle over 10, 12, 18 months, things like that. Finally, a difference between sort of the more traditional bid and spec approaches, very rigorous startup commissioning and acceptance activity based on this energy savings guarantee, right? So we need to spend that extra time starting up and commissioning these systems to ensure that they're going to be able to perform over the term. So in general, that's what ESPC is. We look at a graphical representation here. So see this shaded area on the left here as today's conditions. This is your organization's energy and operational cost profile today. At this point here, call it year 0, all of the energy conservation measures, or ECMs, have been installed. And we immediately see, now, obviously, all this doesn't happen all at the same time, but think again as this year 0 of beginning to realize the full benefit of the entire program. So we have this new operating environment with reduced energy costs, reduced operational costs. Now, there are guaranteed savings. These are payments for the guaranteed energy savings that are going to repay the cost of the project. And we'll look in just a moment at a graphical representation, sort of what that looks like with the different funding arrangements and who's involved. And so over the duration of the contract, state law allows up to 20 years. We most often see these projects in the 10 to 12 to 15 year financing term, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, just depending on a variety of factors. But once that term has been, fully realized, now all of the energy savings in this new reduced energy and operational cost environment are accruing to the owner. Okay, so again, quick graphical representation there. Just a reminder, and I'm going to remind folks multiple times, use the Q&A chat function, or excuse me, the Q&A function for your questions so we can go deeper if we need to in anything that's being covered here. So talking about the flow of funds here. Now, so the owner is taking third-party financing from a financial institution. Repayment is made over the term. Again, I mentioned this 10 to 12 to 15 year environment from the energy performance contract. Savings realized are going to repay the financing. Now, the owner pays the energy services company most often through a schedule of values on a typical construction schedule, let's say of 12 months. You're going to make payments along the schedule of values as the ESCO energy services company installs the program. The ESCO is providing project development and implementation services. And again, you see here, they're providing this guarantee of savings. Now, some of the rules around financing, the ESCO can provide input on the financing, but they're really limited in their role due to regulations on how far they can go. But you have support of GEFA and other partners in helping to arrange the financing. So we see in this ESPC, or energy savings performance contract, there are three main players, two contracts that are signed. One between you as the owner and the ESCO, one between you and the lending institution. And there are a number of, different size lending institutions that are quite familiar with these types of projects and very comfortable in arranging financing for them. All right, now, what types of problems can ESPCs solve? We talked a little bit ago about the issues with deferred maintenance, for example, with energy and operational cost savings goals. Um, it would be quite a slide here for us to list all of the types of energy conservation measures, or ECMs, that are typically included in these projects, but you're going to have mechanical systems, HVAC, lighting systems, plumbing, water systems. I mean, these programs can often be done in water and wastewater utilities where, large blowers, VFDs on pumps, things like this. Think anything that has an impact to the energy and operational cost environment for your organization is sort of eligible, it's on the table. As we go forward, we'll look at just some general characteristics of what might make a good candidate for an energy savings performance contracting program. Again, solving for high utility costs, or utility costs being a large share of the budget of your city, county, school system. Deferred maintenance, we talked about really bringing up these aging or aged systems to today's modernized environment of systems, right? And we're not necessarily looking for cutting edge innovation. You've got a lot of tried and true, sort of the unsexy, as they say, systems that just move the needle on impacting budgets for utility and operational costs. So bringing those systems up to speed. And again, where your organization has resilience, modernization, long-term operational cost savings goals, again, ESPCs can impact those, as your ESCO is going to, as I discussed, conduct this investment grade audit and really look for all opportunities to install new systems to replace the old, improve the operating profile. So a way to consider an ESPC is currently funds going for electricity, natural gas, water, sewer costs are then diverted to pay for the new equipment under this contracting structure. I move things around a little bit here because I want to talk about risk, because in my almost 30 years of doing this, one of the common refrains we hear is, well, this sounds a little too good to be true. Who's guaranteeing these savings? How does this all work? Again, there is a savings guarantee, but I want to stress that it is a performance guarantee. The ESCO is guaranteeing the condition for a new operating cost profile. It's up to you, up to your team to actually operate the equipment as laid out by the manufacturer, and all the O&M manuals and training and all the things that you'll receive as part of the turnover process to actually generate those energy savings. So there is a savings guarantee tied to the contract. Miracle mentioned measurement and verification. There have been all sorts of protocols developed. The most commonly used is the International Measurement and Verification Protocol, IPMVP, and probably I missed a P somewhere in there, but that ESCOs generally follow. You've probably heard something about this, the options A, B, C, and D to determine whether savings have been achieved or not. And so the ESCO is going to use these protocols to measure and verify savings, or really the absence of energy consumption, the absence of operational costs, and report those to you as an organization. Again, these savings are what's used to pay for the project. The contract is, very clear on the roles and responsibilities related to operations, maintenance, and performance, right? I mean, I stress this, and we don't we can't stress this enough. Be prepared to own, operate, and maintain the systems that are installed, because it is your operation and maintenance that is determining whether savings are achieved, right? And finally, the GEFA framework, Georgia's framework, is designed to provide that structured oversight, that accountability. So there are means and methods, and it's just a matter of enforcement and making sure that we understand the type of program, understand everything that's going into the program we're selecting. Okay. Now, that's a little bit about how risk is managed. Going into who's eligible, Miracle talked about this in the intro. I mean, um, multiple public market sectors, local governments, universities, K-12 school districts, hospitals, state agencies. The legislation, the way that it's structured, anyone can take advantage of these programs, of this program. Um, GEFA's framework, again, directly supports the state's performance, state's energy savings performance contracting sort of network. And this program that we'll talk about here for technical assistance, this feeds right into that. In conversations with the GEFA team, I mean, there is a desire, there's a goal to get participation, wide-ranging participation from as many folks as possible. Particularly interested, I mean, another common refrain here is that smaller organizations haven't necessarily been able to take advantage of these programs. And so smaller, medium-sized, sort of historically underserved entities, larger communities, of course, remain eligible, where folks are able to sort of do joint procurements, joint contracting approaches. I think of a project done in Dougherty County, between Dougherty County and Albany years ago, where they joined together, the school system, the city, the county, to do one massive procurement to get that attention and take advantage of economies of scale for a program. Okay. So in considering whether ESPC is the right tool, right, are there multiple buildings, multiple systems that can be bundled into a single project? The example I just gave of Dougherty County and Albany, right, where maybe they thought their single portfolio wasn't big enough. What can we do to expand it? Are there meaningful utility cost and identifiable energy or water savings opportunities? Now, this isn't, there's no hard numbers that we wanted to use here to say, oh, if your utility costs are above $250,000 annually, that makes it a good candidate. It's not that simple. So feasibility studies, looking into seeing if, as a general school of thought, just a meaningful number there. Is there clear organizational interest, right? I mean, this is not many, I believe many things are, this set it and forget it type program. So multiple folks from your organization are going to have to be involved and be committed. And so again, is there that clear organizational interest in addressing energy and operational costs? Deferred maintenance, we touched on multiple times. Are the major building systems nearing the end of their useful life? Is there a clear backlog? Is there just sufficient infrastructure need to justify taking a look at these types of programs? So depending on where you are, how you're structured, these are some of the things that would be considered in developing or choosing to go through this type of program. Okay. Touching on this, again, what is GEFA's role? As Miracle mentioned, GEFA manages Georgia's energy performance contracting program, providing guidance, model documents, program resources, manuals, contracting tools, and here now going a step above to provide technical assistance for individual interested entities, public sector entities in the state. It's important to note that GEFA has call it an advise and consent role, and will not replace owner decision-making, will not replace legal counsel, and is certainly not going to step into the energy services company or ESCO's role and its responsibilities for performance, installation, and these types of things. Okay. And Miracle, I'm sort of looking at you. If I, feel free to come off mute if I go. All right, that's a thumbs up. I appreciate it. And again, reminder to everyone, as you have questions for the content that's being covered, please do use the question and answer function. It should be on the bottom of the screen, and we'll make sure and get those questions answered, as many as we can, as time permits. So continuing with GEFA's role, what does technical support include and involve? So let me first say that support is available whether you're getting started, whether you are in the middle of an investment grade audit, whether you have just commissioned and accepted your program, or you're in the measurement and verification phase. So going back to the beginning, technical support. So think of sessions like the one we're having right now. Introductory awareness of energy savings performance contracting, how the process works, how it can work for you. Intake review. So, okay, are you interested? Well, let's talk about your situation. Let's do a little bit of screening. Let's address or identify some of the candidate facilities and what the goals might be. And this isn't an exhaustive list, but finally here, sort of guidance related to just the different phases and stages that we talked about of the program. On the procurement side, the investment grade audit or IGA review, contracting, negotiation, technical evaluation of the proposed energy conservation measures, just the program as a whole, reviewing it. Providing implementation support. What are the things that you should expect that you need to be ready for, and supporting those that, again, commissioning, startup, very important phases as there is that performance guarantee. And finally here, the measurement and verification of savings, because on a recurring basis, be it quarterly, biannually, at least annually, you will receive a measurement and verification report from the energy services company. And so reviewing that in a timely fashion is very, very important, as again, the ESCO is saying, great, we made our savings. And you want to make sure that that's matching your financial realities as your organization is repaying that financing to the lender over the contract term. The process for technical assistance as we envision it today involves, again, the interest and initial discussion. Now, from there, the arrows, sort of the flow chart here, would follow this, call it the more typical energy savings performance contracting process, where you are selecting an ESCO, right? I mean, you're going through a procurement process just as you normally would for these, a significant spend. The ESCO or Energy Services Company is conducting an investment grade energy audit. They are doing their project development, and stressing again that this is not a process that's done in a vacuum. The Energy Services Company is going to go out through your facilities. They're going to request all sorts of data to help them build a solid picture of the energy and operational cost profile, from which they develop this package of energy conservation measures, ECMs, facility improvement measures, FIMs, energy conservation opportunities, ECO. There are all sorts of acronyms, and everyone likes doing things in their own way, but they're those terms that you see again and again. So the ESCO is developing this package and presenting it to your team, to your organization, to say, hey, look, under financial constraints, we believe this package will cost X dollars and save Y dollars. And it's up to you all as an organization to help the ESCO develop and craft the program, choosing a package of ECMs that, one, meets the financial constraints. There are just those financial constraints. There are only so many savings, only so much savings to go around to fund these programs. Also, where are your priority areas? Are you looking for HVAC controls heavy program? Are you looking to just get as much savings as possible? And so it'll be this sort of lighting heavy program, different ways to develop a program, again, based on what your goals are. And GEFA's technical assistance will help in the beginning phases to identify those goals and sort of build them into all of the processes, particularly on the procurement and ESCO selection. Which ESCO is the right fit for us to get the type of program that we're really looking to have? Once the ESCO has developed the program, you enter into contract negotiation and approvals. So your investment grade audit is going to be done at risk to both the ESCO and your organization. The ESCO is going to say, all right, we will conduct this investment grade audit. And if you elect to move forward, the cost of the audit is rolled into the financing, the entire package. If you decide not to move forward, well, we need to recoup some of our investment, or excuse me, yeah, some of our investment, some of the time that we spent. So you're going in with that posture to make sure that we're serious, because we don't want this capital outlay. Let the cost of the audit be rolled into part of the contract negotiations. What are the terms of the agreement, the length of the term, installation schedules, all of the costs of the program, and so on. And of course, approvals, you're going to have to go to your board, to your commission, to your council to get approval to move forward with this contract that, again, can be a 12 to 24 month installation construction schedule, followed by an up to 20-year financing term. Right. So once that's approved and the contract is executed, you are moving into implementation and acceptance. This is an area where folks think they can sort of take their hands off the wheel, but that's not really the case, because now the ESCO is, contractors are mobilizing, they're on site, they are trying to move at as deliberately as possible to get through this construction schedule and begin generating energy savings, operational cost savings. So making sure that competing priority projects can facilitate this work that's going on, very, very important part of the process. And finally, here we see savings measurement verification. Again, the program has been accepted, the equipment is performing. Now it is the ESCO's responsibility to show that, again, the condition to achieve the guaranteed savings has been achieved, and to support you in making sure that, again, as you operate that equipment, it's operating the way that everyone anticipated. All right, that's generally the process. Thinking through some of the timing and expectations. I mentioned this, I alluded to this a bit before, just going into it with eyes wide open, realizing that stakeholders from finance, facilities, procurement, the executive team, contracts team, everyone's going to need to have some level of involvement, and that's going to shift and vary. It's not vary, but different stages of needing to be involved, different points of time in the process, based on facility complexity, the stages of procurement, the project size, the timelines are going to vary. It is, in general, ESCOs try to complete the investment grade audit portion within 3 months. The project development function, right? I mean, it's one thing to identify the energy cost savings, the energy conservation measures and the opportunities. It's another to put firm cost to those. So that project development activity, again, is gonna vary based on some of the things that you see here. Not always a simple process. We stress that it is a structured delivery and financing process, not an equipment purchase, right? You're you're making a partnership, joining into a partnership with this energy services company to develop and deliver this project. Technical assistance here, just to note, this is going to help any participant, any organization move efficiently through this process with the goal of making sure that the goals that you set out today are again baked into the process as you go through the various stages. So, in considering the technical assistance, just be prepared to provide some basic information. Um, uh, Information on facilities, the different types of buildings. Again, are you a water utility? What are the uses? Primarily, public facing buildings or just general demographic, operational characteristics on the buildings. And some information generally on major systems, on the condition of major systems. Not going too deep into what you have, but giving the team an idea of who you are and what you have. In addition, utility cost summaries, right? We certainly don't need to go at this stage to the level of individual utility bills, but general cost information, again, just that high level overview of who you are and what you've got. We'd love to know where you want a program like this to go for you. What are some of those known capital needs, deferred maintenance concerns, project priorities? What do you know that you've got coming up here in the next several years that's guiding you in developing a program like this? And finally, of course, who's going to be involved? Who would you like the GEFA team to reach out to? What are things that the team needs to know going in to build the technical assistance, program unique to your organization? These are the kinds of things that you'll find sort of asked in the intake form. So leaning into next steps in the process here, get together as a group, discuss your goals, your readiness, potential project pathways, join the technical assistance program. So on Wednesday, July 1st, I don't know exactly what time of day, the intake form will go live, and that will be your opportunity to provide the information I was just mentioning on the previous slide. You'll be asked to complete the intake form. We'll schedule that preliminary conversation with the GEFA team to help you develop your program, help you evaluate and vet whether this program first is right for you, and if so, move into development and all the various steps there. So that's a bit on the next steps. I've left a good bit of time here for the question and answer. And so there is Miracle's contact information. She's a public figure, of course. You can find her with a simple Google search, but there's her email address there. If you got some questions that you didn't get to here, or maybe some things after you have conversations internally that you want to reach out and ask ahead of the launch of the intake form, again, which is going live. Links will be on the GEFA website starting July 1st, Wednesday. So, just in time for America's 250th birthday, give folks some homework to prepare for.
Absolutely.
So thanks, everyone. I breezed through some of that. I know, again, a good bit of it some of you have heard already, perhaps anecdotally or from an interested ESCO that you've been talking with, but happy to go into Q&A at this time.
Awesome. Thank you, George, so much. Just wanted to add a little extra tidbit on our next steps and where our application or intake form link will be. We plan to have our website up by this Friday, so you'll have that with all the basic information that we went over today, and eligible participants, some things that you can do in this technical assistance program, and give you a little bit of a lay of the land, and also, like you said, link that intake form so you can get started for July 1st. In addition to that, we I've been mentioning throughout the webinar, please definitely use the Q&A box. We would love to definitely take your questions and form a FAQ. So we'll keep that updated. The FAQ will be posted prior to the intake form open date, and we'll just keep that on a rolling open basis on keeping those questions updated. So feel free while you're working on your intake form, feel free to reach out to me for any questions as well. And then just lastly, like I mentioned earlier today, we serve as the water and energy office for the state. So some of these people on the call, you definitely may have already taken advantage of our clean water or our drinking water loan funds and some other things that the water office can provide. So please definitely follow us to get all of those updates for GEFA programs. So awesome. Well, yeah, definitely thank you guys all for joining as well today. This recording will be up on the website as well. Like I said, we'll have that up and running on Friday, and we'll have those links prior to application. Um, and we will also have additional information on kind of the timeline of when we will be able to get back with you after that intake form is submitted. So all that information will be posted on our website, as well as our QuickBase link. So thank you so much.
George and Miracle, we do have one question that remains open that we'll answer here live. So the question is, what is the average initial energy savings from a percentage standpoint in a typical project while the loan is being repaid?
Great
That
question.
is a good question. I don't know. I would be hesitant to say that there is an average. I mean, you see ranges. I mean, anything, some of these programs have produced up to 50% savings. Now, that's rare. Sort of a floor, I think you'd see is 15% savings, but it varies based on, conditions. And again, you're talking both energy, that being electrical, natural gas, fuel, and water, 1,000 gallons of water saved. And so you see different, vastly different ranges. And there's, the operational cost side. I mentioned some of the water utilities where sludge hauling, for example, is this huge cost. Well, doing things to reduce that cost, it's still a savings. It's just not, obviously direct energy savings.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. What energy saving can be done by this program, referring to pumping costs? Is there anything can be done? Is there anything that can be accomplished in reducing pumping costs? Our annual electricity cost is close to $7 million.
So on the pumping side, you are often seeing you're seeing a combination of uh, new pumping assets, more efficient pumps, and VFDs, variable speed drives, variable frequency drives. We've seen some smart pumping systems that vary pumping schedules and schemes based on pressure readings at hydrants throughout the distribution network. So there are different ways to go on in those. We've seen some not concern, hesitance to sort of turn the pumping system over to a computer altogether. But in general, those are the types of ECMs that you see there. If you've got that sort of load on the pumping side, I would venture to guess you've also got a considerable load on with blowers. New blowers, VSD, VFDs on blowers often happen as well as part of these programs.
Okay, we have another question. How much funding is available to help with the energy savings, performance contracting, technical assistance?
So, Rich, I wonder if you'll talk about sort of the notion of some of the upfront feasibility approaches to determine whether or not it's viable to go forward, and then what you might see on, the cost of an audit, if you will.
I'm Rich Carroll, Senior Program Manager for Duke AB Energy Services. The questioner had missed the beginning of the webinar. So just to step back briefly, and when we talk about funding available to accomplish uh, energy savings measures, the energy ESPC, Energy Savings Performance Contracting Program, is a financing mechanism where third-party financing is brought in through a debt instrument, and the guaranteed savings generated is sufficient to repay the annual debt payment. Simply put, this webinar will be posted to the website. So if you can, once it's posted, please feel free to watch it from the beginning. George does a very nice job of laying out the basics of the funding mechanism. It is important to note to utilize the intake form. You do not have to commit to doing an ESPC.
Mhm.
Part of the technical assistance here really is to uh, help organizations assess the ESPC potential and help agencies, entities make intelligent decisions on whether this program is right for you. So there is no firm commitment to fill in and take form out and get the beginning of technical assistance.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Rich. Thank you for alluding to that. Definitely, don't want to say there's no costs with associating with performance contracting. If you do go through with the program, you'll have your ESCO costs, your energy saving provider costs, your investment grade audits, and things like that. But when it comes to what Rich was saying, just kind of getting started and seeing if this program or a size of this project would work for you to go through performance contracting with the state. We definitely just want to be here and offer our technical assistance and our advice on the upfront basis. Just as an offer. So there will be no, invoicing or charges or anything to reach out after, kind of getting more information through that intake form.
Well, we have no other questions, so we can go ahead and wrap up and give folks back some of their time.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you guys so much again. And feel free to scan the QR code and we look forward to chatting with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.